Back pain after 60 is often misunderstood as the inevitable result of wear, a story of joints slowly grinding down under the weight of years. Yet when we look closely at how the spine actually functions, a different picture emerges. The spine is not held together by bone alone. It is stabilized moment by a network of deep muscles that coordinate quietly beneath conscious awareness. With age, these muscles do not necessarily weaken first, they lose timing. They stop activating in the precise sequence that protects the spine during everyday movements, and pain becomes the body's way of signaling that coordination has been lost. These deep stabilizing muscles are designed to work gently and continuously. They do not produce visible movement, and they do not respond to effort or exertion in the way larger muscles do. Walking strengthens endurance and circulation, but it does not ask these stabilizers to wake up and organize the spine. As a result, the larger muscles begin to compensate. They tighten to create a sense of security, but this tension increases compression on the spine and reduces natural motion. Pain follows, not because the spine is fragile, but because it is being held in place by the wrong system. Coordination is central to how the body manages load. When you reach for something, stand from a chair, or turn in bed, deep muscles should activate a fraction of a second before movement begins. This pre-activation creates a stable base, allowing the spine to move freely without strain. With age, inactivity, or fear of pain, this timing degrades. Movements become abrupt and unprotected. Even simple tasks can provoke discomfort because the spine is asked to bear forces without its internal support engaged. Targeted exercises work by restoring this lost conversation. Slow, intentional movements that emphasize control rather than repetition reintroduce the stabilizers to their role. These exercises are often subtle. They may feel too easy at first, which is why they are often dismissed. But their effectiveness lies in precision. When performed correctly, they retrain the nervous system to activate the right muscles at the right time. Stability returns not as tension, but as coordination. This is why structural findings on scans do not always match pain levels. Many people over 60 have disc bulges, arthritis, or degeneration visible on imaging without experiencing pain. Others with similar findings struggle daily. The difference is not damage, but control. A spine that is well coordinated can tolerate age-related changes without complaint. A spine that lacks coordination becomes sensitive, even when structural changes are mild. Walking, while beneficial, does not challenge this system. It reinforces habitual patterns and rarely disrupts the compensations that have already formed. Exercises that focus on gentle stabilization do something walking cannot. They slow movement enough for awareness to return. They allow the body to sense position, load, and balance again. This sensory feedback is essential for coordination. Without it, the brain cannot update its model of safety. As coordination improves, the body begins to trust movement again. Muscles release unnecessary tension. Joints move with less resistance. Pain diminishes not because anything has been forced into alignment, but because the spine is once again supported from within. Aging does not remove the body's capacity for coordination. It simply requires a different approach to restore it, one that values timing over strength and awareness over effort. The spine is often treated as a rigid column that must be protected from movement, especially later in life. Yet biologically, the spine thrives on motion, and not just motion in one direction. Each vertebra is designed to glide, rotate, bend, and return to center in small, controlled ranges. When these movements are reduced or avoided, the structures of the spine lose access to one of their most important sources of nourishment. Unlike muscles, spinal discs and many joint surfaces do not have a direct blood supply. They rely on movement to draw in fluids and release waste. Walking provides valuable circulation to the legs and heart, but it keeps the spine largely within a narrow pattern. The pelvis and torso rotate minimally, the spine remains mostly upright, and the same tissues experience the same loads repeatedly. Over time, this repetition can reinforce stiffness rather than resolve it. The spine adapts to what it does most often. When movement becomes limited to one plane, tissues that are rarely moved begin to lose elasticity. This loss is subtle at first, but it accumulates. Multi-directional movement changes this environment. Gentle bending forward and backward compresses and decompresses the discs, allowing fluid exchange. Rotation massages the small joints between vertebrae, helping maintain their glide. Side bending distributes forces across tissues that may have been underused for years. These movements act like internal hydration, improving the health of spinal structures without requiring intensity or strain. Pain often arises when parts of the spine become stiff while others are forced to move more to compensate. This uneven distribution increases stress in localized areas. Multi-directional exercises restore balance by reminding each segment of the spine of its role. When motion is shared evenly, no single joint or muscle bears excessive load. The body feels safer, and pain signals diminish. There is also a neurological dimension to multi-directional movement. The brain relies on varied sensory input to map the body accurately. When movement is repetitive, sensory feedback becomes limited. The brain's representation of the spine grows less precise, and uncertainty increases. Uncertainty is interpreted as risk, and risk leads to protective muscle tension. Introducing varied movement sharpens this map. The brain regains confidence in where the body is in space, reducing the need for guarding. Gentle spinal exercises encourage exploration rather than force. They invite the body to test movement boundaries gradually. This exploration rebuilds trust. The spine is not being pushed beyond its limits, but reminded of them. This is especially important after years of avoiding certain movements due to fear of pain. Avoidance creates stiffness, and stiffness amplifies pain when movement eventually occurs. Controlled, varied motion breaks this cycle. Age-related changes in the spine are often unavoidable, but stiffness is not. Mobility is a biological process that can be maintained when the body is given appropriate stimuli. Multi-directional movement provides those stimuli in a way walking cannot. It reaches areas that forward motion leaves untouched, restoring circulation at a local level where pain often originates. When these movements become part of a routine, the spine begins to feel lighter. Movements that once triggered discomfort become smoother. Standing up, turning, or reaching no longer feels like a negotiation with pain. The spine responds with fluidity rather than resistance. This change does not require force or endurance. It requires variety, patience, and the willingness to move the spine the way it was designed to move across a lifetime. Chronic back pain rarely lives only in the tissues of the spine. Over time, it becomes embedded in the nervous system, shaping how the brain interprets movement, posture, and even rest. When pain persists, the brain begins to predict it. This prediction alters muscle activation, breathing patterns, and movement choices long before the body actually moves. The result is a state of constant protection, where muscles tighten preemptively and sensitivity increases, not because damage is worsening, but because the nervous system is trying to prevent it. This protective state is efficient in emergencies, but harmful when it becomes permanent. Muscles that remain tense reduce circulation and increase compression on joints. The spine loses its natural adaptability, and even harmless movements can trigger discomfort. The nervous system is not malfunctioning in this scenario, it is doing its job too well. It has learned that movement is dangerous, and it is responding accordingly. Slow, deliberate exercises work by changing this learned expectation. They provide the nervous system with new information. When movements are performed at a pace that allows awareness and control, the brain can observe that motion does not automatically lead to pain. Each repetition becomes a data point that contradicts the old prediction. Over time, these new experiences update the nervous system's model of safety. Speed matters because fast or forceful movement can reinforce fear. Quick motions leave little time for sensory feedback to be processed. The brain reacts instead of observes. Slow movement creates space for sensation to be noticed without alarm. Muscles learn to release unnecessary tension. Breathing deepens, heart rate steadies, and the body shifts out of defensive mode. This is why pain can decrease even when structural changes remain. The nervous system is the gatekeeper of pain perception. When it feels safe, it reduces the volume of pain signals. Exercises that focus on control, balance, and gentle activation speak directly to this system. They do not argue with pain, they reassure it. Fear of movement is one of the strongest predictors of persistent back pain. When people avoid bending, twisting, or lifting, the nervous system receives confirmation that these movements are indeed dangerous. Avoidance reinforces sensitivity. Carefully designed exercises reverse this process. They reintroduce movement in a way that feels manageable. Confidence grows gradually, and with it, freedom of motion. There is also a feedback loop between posture and nervous system tone. Guarded postures signal threat to the brain. Relaxed, upright postures signal safety. Exercises that encourage controlled alignment and ease influence this loop. As posture improves, nervous system arousal decreases. As arousal decreases, posture becomes easier to maintain. Pain diminishes as this cycle stabilizes. Age does not remove the nervous system's ability to learn. Neuroplasticity persists throughout life. The brain continues to adapt based on experience. Gentle exercises leverage this capacity. They do not demand strength or endurance, but attention. They ask the nervous system to notice success rather than anticipate failure. When the nervous system begins to trust movement again, muscles stop overprotecting. Blood flow improves, joints move with less friction, and stiffness softens. Pain no longer dominates awareness. It fades into the background as the body reclaims its natural rhythm. Healing, in this sense, is not the elimination of all discomfort, but the restoration of confidence that the body can move without harm. Here is the expanded keynote number 3 as requested, approximately 600 words, continuous narrative, reflective and scientific tone, no headings, no ending sentence. Chronic back pain rarely lives only in the tissues of the spine. Over time, it becomes embedded in the nervous system, shaping how the brain interprets movement, posture, and even rest. When pain persists, the brain begins to anticipate it. This anticipation changes muscle activation patterns. Before the body even moves, muscles tighten preemptively, breathing becomes shallow, and movement becomes cautious. The pain feels physical, but its persistence is driven by protection rather than injury. This protective response is not a flaw. It is the nervous system doing what it evolved to do: prevent harm. The problem arises when protection outlives the original threat. As months or years pass, the nervous system maintains a heightened state of alert, treating ordinary movements as potential dangers. This state increases sensitivity in the spinal tissues. Even minor stress can feel overwhelming, not because the tissue is weak, but because the alarm system is turned up too high. Slow, controlled exercises work by lowering this alarm. They give the nervous system time to observe rather than react. When movement is deliberate and gentle, sensory information reaches the brain clearly. The brain notices that bending, stabilizing, or shifting weight does not automatically result in pain. Each safe repetition sends a message that contradicts the old expectation. Gradually, the nervous system updates its predictions. Speed plays a critical role in this process. Fast or forceful movements bypass conscious awareness and reinforce reflexive tension. The brain reacts before it can assess safety. Slower movement allows the body to feel position, pressure, and balance without urgency. Muscles learn that they do not need to contract aggressively to protect the spine. Tension softens, circulation improves, and movement becomes smoother. Breathing changes as the nervous system calms. Slow exercises encourage deeper, more regular breathing, which further reduces sympathetic activation. As breathing stabilizes, heart rate variability improves, signaling a shift from defense to regulation. This physiological shift reduces inflammatory signaling and decreases pain sensitivity throughout the body. Fear of movement is one of the strongest drivers of long-term back pain, especially in older adults. Avoiding bending or twisting teaches the nervous system that these movements are dangerous. Over time, avoidance leads to stiffness, and stiffness increases pain when movement eventually occurs. Carefully designed exercises break this cycle by reintroducing movement within safe, controlled ranges. Confidence grows with each successful repetition. Posture is also influenced by nervous system tone. A guarded posture reflects vigilance. A balanced posture reflects safety. Exercises that encourage gentle alignment change how the brain interprets body position. As posture improves, the nervous system receives feedback that the environment is manageable. This reduces unnecessary muscle contraction and decreases load on the spine. Importantly, the nervous system retains its ability to adapt throughout life. Neuroplasticity does not end with age. Older adults can retrain movement patterns and pain responses when given the right stimuli. Gentle, intentional exercises leverage this capacity without overwhelming the system. They replace fear with familiarity and tension with coordination. As the nervous system relearns that movement is safe, pain loses its grip. Muscles no longer overreact, joints move with less resistance, and the spine regains its natural adaptability. Relief emerges not from forcing strength, but from restoring trust between the brain and the body. Posture is often discussed as something that should be corrected through effort, as if holding the body in the right position were a matter of willpower. Yet the body does not maintain posture through conscious control. It relies on a balance of strength, coordination, and sensory feedback that distributes load efficiently across muscles and joints. When posture deteriorates with age, the issue is rarely laziness or weakness alone. It is imbalance, where certain muscles work too much while others quietly disengage. The lower back often becomes a victim of this imbalance. When the hips and gluteal muscles lose strength or coordination, the spine absorbs forces it was never designed to handle alone. Standing, walking, or rising from a chair then places repeated stress on the lumbar region. The back responds by tightening, attempting to create stability through tension. This tension reduces mobility and increases compression, which in turn amplifies discomfort. True postural support begins below the spine. The hips act as the foundation for upright movement. When they are stable and responsive, they allow the spine to remain relaxed and mobile. Exercises that strengthen the glutes and improve hip control shift the burden away from the lower back. This redistribution of load is subtle but powerful. The spine no longer needs to brace itself constantly, and pain gradually decreases. The deep abdominal muscles play a similar role. They do not function like surface muscles that flex the trunk. Instead, they create a gentle, circumferential support around the torso. This support stabilizes the spine without rigidity. When these muscles are inactive, the body compensates by overusing the superficial muscles, leading to stiffness and fatigue. Exercises that focus on slow, controlled engagement restore this internal support system. Forcing posture by pulling the shoulders back or tightening the core often backfires. It increases muscle tension and reduces natural movement. The body senses this rigidity as effortful and unsustainable. Over time, fatigue sets in, and posture collapses again. Balanced strength allows posture to emerge naturally, without constant correction. The body chooses efficiency when it is available. Movement quality matters more than static alignment. Posture is dynamic, changing with every step and breath. Exercises that integrate balance and control teach the body how to maintain alignment during motion. This is especially important for older adults, whose daily activities involve transitions rather than static positions. Rising, turning, and reaching place varying demands on the spine. Balanced strength ensures these demands are shared across the body. As strength becomes more evenly distributed, proprioception improves. The body becomes more aware of its position in space. This awareness reduces unnecessary tension because the nervous system no longer needs to guess where the body is. Confidence in movement replaces vigilance. The spine feels supported rather than strained. Over time, improved postural balance changes how movement feels. Tasks that once triggered discomfort become easier. The body feels lighter, not because it is held upright by effort, but because it is supported from within. Pain fades as the spine is freed from doing work that belongs to the hips, the core, and the legs. Aging does not require rigidity. With balanced strength, posture becomes a quiet expression of stability rather than a constant struggle. Here is expanded keynote number 4, approximately 600 words, continuous flow, reflective and scientific tone, no headings, no ending sentence. Posture is often treated as something that must be imposed on the body, as if standing tall were a discipline rather than a biological outcome. Yet posture is not maintained by effort alone. It emerges from balance. The body constantly distributes forces through muscles, joints, and connective tissue, choosing the most efficient strategy available. When that balance is lost, posture collapses not from weakness, but from compensation. In many older adults, the lower back becomes the center of this compensation. As hip strength and control diminish, the spine takes on more responsibility than it was designed for. The gluteal muscles, which should drive upright movement and absorb force, become underused. The hips stiffen or lose coordination, and the spine tightens in response. This tension feels protective, but it increases compression and limits natural motion, quietly feeding pain over time. Balanced posture begins with restoring strength and control where it belongs. The hips are meant to generate power and stability during standing, walking, and transitions. When exercises awaken the glutes and surrounding muscles, load shifts away from the lumbar spine. This redistribution reduces the need for constant spinal bracing. The back can relax without collapsing because support is coming from below. Deep core muscles contribute in a similar way. They do not create visible movement or rigidity. Their role is subtle, providing low-level support that adapts to motion. When these muscles lose coordination, the body compensates by gripping the surface muscles of the abdomen and back. This gripping restricts breathing and movement, reinforcing stiffness. Gentle exercises that emphasize controlled engagement restore this internal support without tension. Attempts to force posture often make things worse. Pulling the shoulders back or tightening the stomach creates short-term alignment at the cost of long-term comfort. The nervous system perceives forced posture as effortful and unsustainable. Fatigue sets in, and the body reverts to old patterns. Balanced strength, on the other hand, allows posture to feel effortless. The body chooses alignment because it reduces energy expenditure. Posture is not static. It shifts continuously as the body moves, breathes, and responds to the environment. Exercises that integrate balance, coordination, and controlled motion teach the body how to maintain alignment dynamically. This is especially important with age, when daily life demands frequent transitions. Standing up, turning, reaching, and stepping all require coordinated load sharing. Balanced strength prepares the body for these demands. As balance improves, proprioception sharpens. The body becomes more aware of where it is in space. This awareness reduces uncertainty, and uncertainty is a major driver of muscle tension. When the nervous system knows where the body is, it allows muscles to relax. Movement becomes smoother, and posture stabilizes without conscious correction. Over time, this shift changes how the body feels during everyday activities. Standing no longer feels like holding oneself together. Walking feels lighter, more fluid. The spine is no longer burdened with tasks that belong to the hips and legs. Pain recedes not because posture has been perfected, but because balance has been restored. The body moves toward alignment naturally when it is given the strength and coordination it needs. Confidence in movement is often overlooked, yet it plays a decisive role in how the body ages and how pain persists. When pain has been present for a long time, the body learns caution. Movements become smaller, slower, and more guarded. This guardedness feels reasonable, even necessary, but it quietly reshapes the nervous system. The body begins to associate movement with risk, and this association influences every action, from standing up to turning in bed. Avoidance is rarely conscious. It shows up as subtle hesitation, reduced range, or reliance on support even when strength is sufficient. Over time, these patterns limit exposure to normal movement. Muscles lose coordination, joints stiffen, and balance declines. The body interprets these changes as further evidence that movement is unsafe. A self-reinforcing loop forms, where fear limits movement and limited movement fuels pain. Exercises designed for older adults work not just on muscles and joints, but on this loop. They create experiences of success. Each controlled movement that does not provoke pain challenges the belief that the body is fragile. Confidence begins to return, not through reassurance, but through direct experience. The nervous system learns through doing, not thinking. This process must be gradual. Sudden or demanding exercise can reinforce fear if discomfort appears. Senior-friendly movements are intentionally modest. They allow the body to explore motion within safe boundaries. This exploration rebuilds trust. Trust allows relaxation. Relaxation reduces unnecessary tension. Tension reduction improves movement quality. The cycle reverses. Balance plays a central role in confidence. When balance feels uncertain, the nervous system remains on alert. Exercises that improve balance do more than prevent falls. They signal competence. Standing on one leg, shifting weight, or controlling transitions teaches the body that it can manage instability. This sense of capability carries over into daily life. Walking feels safer. Turning feels smoother. Confidence expands beyond the exercise itself. Psychological confidence and physical confidence are deeply linked. When the body moves with ease, the mind follows. Anxiety decreases. Attention shifts away from pain and toward engagement with the environment. This shift reduces pain perception because the brain prioritizes what feels relevant. Pain loses prominence when movement feels purposeful rather than threatening. Confidence also changes posture and breathing. A confident body stands differently, breathes more fully, and moves with rhythm rather than hesitation. These changes influence nervous system tone. Calm breathing signals safety. Upright posture signals readiness rather than defense. The body begins to function in a state that supports healing rather than protection. Aging does not require shrinking movement or surrendering confidence. The body retains its capacity to adapt when given appropriate input. Exercises that respect limitations while encouraging exploration create this input. They remind the body that it is capable, resilient, and responsive. Over time, restored confidence transforms how the body relates to pain. Pain may still appear, but it no longer dictates behavior. Movement resumes its role as a natural expression of life rather than a calculated risk. The body moves not because it is forced to, but because it remembers how to trust itself again.